I have a bit of an issue today that I want to talk about. So this will be a bit of a rant kind of video. It may be all over the place. I don't know. I want to talk today about the statement I see and videos I see online where people are saying that what you dream is a warning and that something bad is going to happen to you because of what you dreamed. There are some schools of thought out there that believe this and talk about it, and almost every single dream symbol that they interpret means that something bad is going to happen to the dreamer, or it means there's something happening beyond their control and that they don't know about, like that their ex is thinking about them or whatever. And I'm here to talk today about the fact that that's not true. I don't think it's true. Hi, my name is Karen, and I dream a lot, and I like to study and talk about dreams and dream interpretation. What is a dream meaning that you have heard has like a negative, it's forecasting something bad's going to happen to you? Put that in the comments below. I'd like to understand and know what those are. I see them. I don't keep track of them because they kind of make me mad when I see them. So I don't, when I started to think about, oh, what are the ones that the examples I'm going to give? I had to kind of think about it pretty hard before I found them. But some of them are that they tell you that if you dream of a car crash, that means you're going to be in a car crash. So, which we'll get into that in a second. That's not what it means. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Dreams are not warnings of bad things happening to you, the dreamer. Dreams are symbolic. They are metaphor. They are pictures. This started because I was researching about nightmares for a different video, and I came across a bunch of articles that were like, these warnings in your nightmares. And I was like, man, just don't use that language even. Why are you even using the language? It was a legitimate, scientific article, but it was using that language. And I understand what they were trying to do. They're trying to get people to come read it, because when you really read the article, they weren't saying that these mean that something bad is going to happen, but it just reminded me of the videos that I do see. And the people that do tell you that if you dream that your teeth fall out, it means your teeth are going to fall out, right? That's not what it means. It doesn't mean your teeth are going to fall out. It could mean it's a good idea to go to the dentist. That is one possible meaning. But dreaming your teeth fall out is symbolic. It's a metaphor. It actually represents communication issues, feeling like you're not able to speak up for yourself. You're not able to speak your needs. I had a friend who, she was getting ready to go spend time with family. So it was like I don't know if it was the holidays or a birthday or something. And there was, as usually, when, I don't know about you, but most people I've known in our families, there's always someone you're like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to be able to deal with that person this time. I hope they're not there, whatever, right? And so she dreamed, as she was planning for this get together, that her teeth were falling out. And I was like, I'm not surprised, because that represents feeling like you can't speak up. And that's exactly how she felt about this thing that was going to happen, this get together in the future. She felt already, always had felt around certain people in the family, that she couldn't speak up. She couldn't speak her opinion, or that they didn't listen to her. She didn't know how to communicate with them. That is not a warning that when you get to this thing, you're not going to be able to speak up. It is actually an expression of her fears and her worries around something that she is thinking about and preparing for or looking forward to. Or, well, I don't know if she's looking forward to it, but she knows it's going to happen. She's going to be there. And so the dream is expressing her anxieties, her worries. That's what dreams express. Just like in our waking life, we can have an anxious thought about something we're going to do. That doesn't mean that those anxious thoughts are going to come true. We can be worried about what's going to happen at a meeting that we're going to lead, and be anxious and want to make sure that everything goes smoothly and that we end on time and that everybody gets to do their part or whatever, right? In a presentation, we can be anxious and want to make sure we do a good job. But that doesn't mean in our waking life, when we feel that anxiety about the meeting, that it's definitely going to go poorly. It's just us thinking that's one possibility. So we'll circle back around to that thought in a minute, because I think that's really helpful when we have dreams. It gives us a tool of what we can do with that energy. So some of the common things that people say, oh, this means that something bad is going to happen, is like, say, a car crash. A car crash doesn't mean that you're going to be in a car accident or that you're going to have a car crash. It actually is saying that you feel like things are kind of out of control right now in your life. Things in your life are out of control. Things are kind of crashing down around you, possibly. There's a lot of stress happening. So that's what car crash represents. The classic one I hear in comments and through, mostly in comments in the videos and on my Instagram, are that someone died. They dreamed that someone that's very close to them died, and they had a lot of sorrow in the dream, and they woke up crying, and those are very upsetting dreams. And I've done videos on the channel about what it means when someone dies. But dreaming that someone dies does not mean that person is going to die. It can do that when you are with someone who's at end of life or who has a terminal illness, and you're their caregiver, or it's a family member, and let's say you've gone to hospice to see your grandmother who's in hospice. You'll probably have a dream that she dies, right? Because that's the situation you're in right then. But if you're just out of the blue, oh, I dreamed that my dad died and he's fine, I just talked to him 3 days ago, or I just had an argument with him 3 days ago. Your dream is about something that he represents passing away. It could be your connection to him. It could be that he's becoming a different person, that you feel that you've lost the dad that you knew. It could be that your relationship is broken in some way if you just had an argument, right? So all those things is what death represents in a dream. It doesn't necessarily mean, it almost never means that the person is going to truly just drop dead and die. Another one that people have is their teeth falling out. I already mentioned that one. That doesn't mean your teeth are going to fall out. It's about communication. They dream that their hair falls out. That doesn't mean you're going to lose your hair. That represents fears around getting older or aging or it can represent feeling weak or not very strong or vulnerable in a situation. And so again, it could be any waking life situation, a job, a relationship, family, a trip you're on, any of those things. Hair loss is around concerns, hair connected to mental and thoughts, but also concerns around aging, because thick hair is seen as healthy. So thinning hair is generally something we experience as we get older. So that's what hair represents in a dream. So again, these are symbols, they're metaphors, they're pictures, they're not warnings telling you bad things are going to happen. You might dream that you lose your job or lose your house or lose money or something like that. That doesn't mean those things are going to go away. It doesn't mean you're losing them. Those are dreams around security, fears around your security, worries around the security of the situation that you're in. And then another one is falling. Falling dreams don't mean that you're going to fall off a building, right? I don't ever hear anybody say that, but we generally know that's not what a falling dream means. But what does a falling dream mean? And why do we have them? And they're terrible and they feel gross, right? And scary. And falling dreams, which I've done a video on these, is a representation that you don't feel supported in some situation. It doesn't mean in your whole life that you don't feel supported, though it can be, but it generally means you don't feel supported by a specific person, or again, maybe you don't feel supported in your job. Like, look around in your waking life. Where in your waking life do you feel like you don't have the support that you would like or that you need? That's what the dream is talking about. So back to, dreams are telling you what you're worried about, what you're fearful of. They're not forecasting bad things happening to you. So please, please, please remember that when you wake up. If I could get people to remember one thing, one of them is that you can rewrite a nightmare and to try it and see how that works. But the second is that dreams are not warnings. Dreams are not magical fortune teller messages that are telling you the psychic thing that's not what dreams are. I'm not saying that you can't connect to your intuition, a higher power, a higher self in your dreams, or that they aren't trying to connect to you. I think that's all very real in the land of dreams. And often those types of dreams and messages are actually dreams of love and safety and encouragement. So if you have dreams like that, it's generally love and safety and encouragement. That's not to say that I know that people do have dreams where someone comes to them in a dream and says, don't take this job, or don't marry that person, or whatever. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about just the standard dreams that you have that are bizarre and that are weird and we think are too strange. And that's another thing I hear a lot is, oh, my dreams are so bizarre. All dreams are bizarre. In fact, if it's not bizarre, that means something else. That's That's a different kind of dream. Generally, your dreams are going to be bizarre. They're not going to follow a logical progression that you notice and can see, but a dream interpreter can show you the theme and the logic and the progression. A lot of times dreams do have a past, present, future kind of arc in them, but generally the future part of the dream is actually giving you a symbol or a tool or showing you that you already have a skill to face the thing that you're anxious about. I've done other videos on the channel around how dreams are helping you process emotions. And generally the emotions that we don't let ourselves process in our waking life are fear and anxiety and sorrow. And those come up in dreams. And that's why we have dreams where we are crying. And that's why we have dreams, nightmares where we're scared. There's actually something to remember is if you go around being all sweet and nicey nice and not speaking up for yourself and resenting people, but you're always sweet and nice because you don't want to ruffle any feathers, you're probably going to have more nightmares because you are not acknowledging things that bother you, that you have resentment about. And so those anger dreams or those anger emotions and fears and anxieties are going to show up in your dreams because you're not allowing and acknowledging them when you're awake. So what are this one article that I saw that was talking about warnings, and I'll try to link it down below. It actually was saying that what the dreams are warning you of is that you are too stressed. You have too many stressors in your life. So you need to try to de-stress and take care of yourself. Another warning they said was that you need to set boundaries, right? So you're going to have dreams sometimes around anger, or there's a lot of anger, like conflict kind of dreams where there's a conflict, where you're a soldier, or where you're at war with someone, or where people shoot you, or there's a gun in the dream. Those are all dreams of conflict. And if you are someone who doesn't set boundaries because you didn't learn how, because who did, right? You didn't learn how to set boundaries, and you are starting to be in a time of life where you're like, oh my gosh, I need to have some boundaries. That's going to show up in your dreams. So that's the warning of the dream is, hey, let's maybe think about setting some boundaries here because you're not, and you're not giving space in your waking life to acknowledge that you feel resentment. If you feel resentment about a thing, there's things you can do to resolve that resentment, to deal with it, right? You don't have to just keep feeling resentment. And that's the warning or the message of the dream. And so to me, that's not a bad thing happening. That's a positive thing happening. That's the message of dreams. They're telling you something that you're worried about or that's bothering you, that you are not giving allowance to acknowledge when you're awake. And so the dream's going to bring it to you and help you see what you can do to change that situation or to deal with your anxiety or your fear. And so related to that, the warnings that this article talked about is emotional suppression. So kind of the same thing, boundaries and emotional suppression kind of go together. You don't want to acknowledge to yourself that you're afraid or that you're scared or that you're mad, and also grief. Our society kind of gives us the message that we shouldn't grieve for very long, and so we don't acknowledge our sorrows. And I don't mean just the big griefs like when somebody passes away, but I mean like little grief, like a job change or a move, or children growing up. There's little sorrows there because, again, you might miss how they were when they were little, or any of those kinds of things. But then of course the sorrows around a breakup or a pet loss, or there's so many things that we can grieve, and we don't allow ourselves that time. And so that sorrow or symbolism around that sorrow comes up in our dreams, and they feel scary or unpleasant. And then that's all it is. You don't need to go and say, oh, it's a warning. No, it's you processing your emotions. It's your subconscious giving you that opportunity to express and process those emotions. I do recommend that you try to process them also when you're awake, but sometimes we have seasons in our life where things are just too busy for us to process, and so the dreams are helping us do the processing. Another thing that dreams can be a symbol of is past trauma. And this is a little different than PTSD. Definitely PTSD does create nightmares, and there's a whole lot of good work being done around PTSD and nightmares and how to have fewer of them. So I encourage you to look into that if you do have PTSD. But I'm talking about just the other traumas, like all trauma is trauma. All trauma is traumatic and doesn't feel good. But there's a lot of people who don't realize or acknowledge that they had trauma. I think we're getting into a time in the world where we are starting to acknowledge the traumas of our world in a way, but even 5 years ago, and go farther back than that, and people didn't acknowledge that things were traumatic. They just grinned and grin and bear it, just pick up and keep going on, carry on, keep calm and carry on, right? That trauma, the past trauma, is going to show up in your dreams. It probably has been already, but it's going to continue until you are able to start to process it, to heal it, to do the grief. Again, trauma, this is not a trauma channel, but trauma is stuck emotion, stuck experience in the body. And so as part of the processing of stuck emotion, it's going to come up in dreams as well. So if you're having dreams and there's a lot of nightmares, more than normal, what's normal? More than 1 or 2 nightmares a month. If you're having so many nightmares that you're afraid to go to sleep, that kind of thing, it may be pointing to there's some trauma that needs healing. And you might not have thought of that before. I'm in a world where everybody's aware of their trauma now, but 5 years ago, I was in a place nobody talked about trauma, and I am so glad to learn that trauma was a thing. It explains a lot about my life and helps me to process a lot of the things that happened in my life and understand them. So one of the things I wanted to touch on as I'm ranting about dreams are not warnings, and talking about anxiety and how anxiety even is not really a warning. Anxiety is our fears, and it's a story that we tell ourselves about something that may happen. We tell ourselves, oh, it's gonna happen. I'm gonna go on a retreat and I'm not gonna make any friends and they're all gonna make fun of me and they're gonna think I'm stupid and silly. That was an actual story I was telling myself earlier in the year. And it was just a story. It was just a story. It was just one possibility of hundreds of possibilities of what could happen on the retreat. And when I went on the retreat, that is not what happened. I had a great time. I met people that I still talk to now. Nobody that I'm aware of, thought I was silly. If they did, I don't know about it, but I didn't feel silly at the retreat. I felt like I had a good time. So again, anxiety is us telling ourselves a story that could come true. It's a one possibility out of so many, many. So when you have a dream and you wake up and you're like, oh, that could come true. It could. It probably won't. Like, what are the other possibilities of what could happen? Again, after you've done is it a symbol? What is it a symbol of? Where in my life might I be feeling this? This is a metaphorical representation of something happening in my waking life. But back to when you're awake and you might have a feeling that something bad is going to happen. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about red flags. I'm not talking about you go into a situation and you're like, ugh, I don't like the way that person treated me. And your gut is telling you, don't hang out with this person. Listen to that, okay? I'm not talking about that. Or you apply for a job and something about the job just doesn't feel right. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about when we're just going about our regular life and we're like, oh, I'm so worried about this thing that I have to do. That's not a red flag. That's worry and anxiety. So those are 2 different things. One thing that dream interpreters say a lot, and I agree with this with a little bit of a caveat, is that dreams are unique to every single person. And so it's not a good idea to say, oh, this one symbol is true for everybody, because it might not be true for you. I agree with that. But if you're new to dream interpreting and you don't have a dream interpreter to help you figure it out, I think that using dreammoods.com is a really good idea, because what it does is help you see the symbolism, what it might mean. And you decide if it's true for you. Does it resonate for you? Are you like, yeah, this is what I think it means? But I like that, because dream moods will keep you from saying immediately, oh, it's a warning, because most of what they put in dream moods is not warnings. It's symbolic. It's a representation. So like a snake is a representation of threat. It doesn't mean that you're going to have a threat, that something's going to threaten you in the future. It's actually probably talking about something you're already facing that you have felt threatened by, or you've already overcome this threat to you. So that's what the symbolism is. It's symbolizing threat, sure, or a gun is symbolizing anger, or conflict, but it doesn't point to a future circumstance. It is actually most likely pointing to a past one, or something currently happening that you are feeling emotions about. So That's how the difference is. And you learn that through dreammoods.com. I've always got that linked down below, so you can check it out there. Maybe once or twice there will be some kind of warning kind of language in there, and I just take it to mean, oh, that's just the symbolism. It's not telling me this bad thing is going to happen. I'm not going to lose my wallet or whatever. It means I'm worried about money. That's one reason I recommend dreammoods.com, because some people can get into a tendency to think all of their dreams mean something bad is going to happen. So that's one of the things that's why I started this channel. That's why I started my Instagram, was to encourage people to see, what is the dream telling you that's empowering? Dreams are not telling you that you have no power, that other people are doing things that you have no control over, and that all these bad things are going to happen to you, and just, oh, woe is you. That's not what dreams are about. Dreams are telling you, they're giving you a space to feel your feelings. They are empowering you. So always choose the most empowering interpretation that you see in the dream dictionary, or from a person online who's talking about dream interpreting. Always pick the most empowering version of what the dream can mean. That's my belief, is start there. Don't start with the bad warning, weird stuff. Start with the empowering thing and see how that feels for you. And if you interpret your dream in an empowering way, and if you don't know how to be empowering, sometimes I've gone through life where I'm like, I don't even know what the empowering thing to do is here. Dreammoods.com can give you some ideas and help you to start to see, oh, maybe this is representing strength instead of fear. Maybe this is representing power that I have instead of, this scary monster thing. That's another one. Monsters in dreams don't necessarily represent a scary thing that's going to happen in your future. A monster can represent a power within you that you may not be aware of. So I have a video on the channel on monsters and what they can mean in the dream. So that's another example, not a warning. So if you are interested in other videos, there's videos on nightmares, there's videos on being chased, there's videos on precognitive dreams. Go ahead and check those out. You can follow me over on Instagram at Caryndreams. Thank you for watching this video. Go ahead and click the subscribe button so you don't miss the next one, and I will see you in the next one.